Hello, this is Tempo Afric TV's Beyond the Headlines program, and I'm your host, Petros Haile. Today, our guest is Mohammed Idris, the Executive Director for American Relief Agency for the Horn of Africa, and also known as RAHA. Welcome, Mohammed.
Thank you, Petros, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Today we have a very important subject to discuss, famine in the Horn of Africa. In fact, a report came out today that there's a famine by United Nations warns the largest humanitarian crisis since Second World War, or since the United Nations, the creation of United Nations. More than 20 million people are in danger of famine, and particularly in these four countries, which is Somalia, Yemen, South Sudan, and of course West Africa and northern Nigeria. But before we get into it, I wanted Mohammed Idris to tell us about American Relief Agency for the Horn of Africa, which is the Executive Director of RAHA.
Yeah, thank you, Petros. And again, thank you for inviting me to your nice program. You always touch relevant and timely topics. And this is really the topic of the day, especially for the people in the Horn of Africa. So let me just start by giving a little bit introduction about RAHA. RAHA is stand for the American Relief Agency for the Horn of Africa. It's a non-profit humanitarian organization registered in the United States and founded by Americans who are originally from the Horn of Africa, so Somali American, Ethiopian Americans, Eritrean Americans, Sudanese and Kenyan Americans. Those are the founders, and we are based in Minnesota. Actually, the RAHA was founded in 2000 due to the famine in Ethiopia, if people remember. Just people came together and they want to do something to help their native countries. So that's how RAHA started. We work in 4 countries in the Horn of Africa. We work in Somalia, in Ethiopia, in Sudan, and in Kenya. And we do relief projects during famine, during disaster, and we also do development projects like education, self-reliance, and so forth. So this is just a brief introduction about RAHA.
All right, thank you, Mohammed. In fact, on our previous interview, we've talked about the details of RAHA for about 45 minutes, so people can refer to old video, to know more about it.
Right.
And why, to get back to the question, why is that the United Nations called this emerging drought and famine the worst since the Second World War, or since the inception of United Nations in 1950s. Why do they call it the worst?
Because it really, because it is the worst. The situation right now is in this area, and I'm going to talk about the Horn of Africa and East Africa region. We have over 20 million people are in need for emergency assistance. South Sudan already declared famine last month, and I think the Somali government just last week they reported that 110 people died as a result of this drought. I was talking to our office director just a couple days ago, and he was telling me that in Mazrabet region in Kenya, there was about 62 people died. This is just last week, and this is in the human aspect. Now there is a massive death of livestock. Hundreds of thousands of livestock died in the region, and that's usually the sign of a famine. And this is due to the lack of rain for almost 2 consecutive seasons that led to what we are seeing right now. The malnutrition, the acute malnutrition, reach in some area over 20%. This is a high number. Usually United Nations declare emergency when the rate exceed 15%, and now we are seeing almost like 20% increase. So the displacement, if you talk about the displacement, the internal displacement that happened within these countries, especially in Somalia, is increasing rapidly. Thousands of people moved from rural area and they came to urban areas. We saw that in Somaliland, we saw that in Puntland, we saw that in the south. And if we talk about water shortage, it's also is getting really worse and worse. Just to give you an estimation, they estimated that the consumption of water in some of these areas by individuals in some area reach like 1.6 to 2.8 gallon per day for a person. Just to get a comparison, here in the United States, we consume about 100 gallons of water every day for different uses. So you can see how the scope of the problem is just so huge. So this is a real problem that we are seeing, and children usually in these such famine and severe drought, they will become the victims. In last famine, half of those who died were children under the age of 5. So that is what we are afraid to happen this time also.
Oh, okay. Antonio Guterres, which is a UN Secretary General today, he said 4 countries in particular are affected by the drought. And in particular, some areas like Somalia, you were saying famine, famine is showing in some places. And people tend to confuse the difference between drought and famine. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's a famine is a stage of one of the phases where they measure the food security or the food supply for a specific population in a specific area. So actually the United Nations agencies and other monitoring agencies, they develop a system where they measure the food supply for a specific population in a specific area. So they develop a 5-scale system. So there is a phase 1 is minimal, and then I think it's there are many. So there are emergency, there is a minimal, and then there is a stress, a stressed phase, and then there is a crisis phase, and there is emergency case, and then there is the catastrophe, which is the famine. So it is a 5 scale, and it measures basically how much of food supply are available for people in a specific area. So when it reached that 20% of a population in a specific area are finding difficult to get food supply, that's a sign of famine.
Famine, okay.
Famine, yeah. And of course, some of the science is that the death and the mortality will be high. In the emergency phase, a lot of livestock died. So right now, if you want to apply that system, the Horn of Africa between 4 and 5. Between the emergency phase to the catastrophe phase. So in some area, actually, it is catastrophe, like South Sudan, already famine declared. And in Somalia, right now, it is in the emergency phase. Because in Somalia right now, half of the population there, about 6 million and a half, are experiencing difficulty in getting food.
And we should not forget about Yemen as well.
And yes, because we work in the Horn of Africa, so maybe more of my talk will be about the Horn of Africa, because that's where our mission is. Okay. But you're right, Yemen also is going through very difficult times. But and as you could see, Yemen is not maybe because of a drought. South Sudan may not be also because of a drought. This is a man-made famine, unfortunately. But in the case of Somalia, to a large extent, it's a drought, and also the same thing in Kenya.
In fact, that's what one report said. The famine, the drought in Somalia, it can be manageable because it was not based on conflicts. So it can easily be accessible to reach to the affected areas.
Yes. But again, the government play a main role also. So if you have a strong government and effective government, a government that have presence in the large part of the country, it can mobilize the resources and it can facilitate a lot of the work. But if the government, right now in Somalia, although there is a government, but the government does not have the power, is not governing all the part of the country, and that's just making it difficult to act the same way as the other countries, like maybe, Ethiopia or Kenya or Djibouti.
Yeah, in fact, there is a report today on, I believe it's Al Jazeera, in more political stable countries such as Djibouti, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Kenya, Sudan, and Uganda, drought has strained food systems, but famine will not happen in places with working government and functional local economies. Yes. Are they saying that although the system is not attractive, so to speak, but they manage to feed the population, or their
yes, because actually what you said is absolutely true. Because famine, there are many causes for famine. There is the natural causes, and there is the lack of access, and that's another cause. And then because of the conflict, because of war and things like that. So when you have a stable government, these government may not have the resources to feed those people, but will act ahead of time when there is a warning. And allow maybe NGOs and allow the international community to respond. But if there is no government, and sometimes even area where it's controlled by groups that are not under the government, they may ban access to certain non-profit or to even to the non-profit in general, and that's just cause a problem. I remember, just to give you an example, in 2011. There was a famine that's in Somalia, but the drought hit also Kenya, hit Ethiopia. But I remember in Kenya, the cabinet responded and spent I don't know if I remember, like $100 million to purchase corn and to purchase food so that they can respond to that. So a decision like that, it make a big difference. And you cannot, of course, that will not happen in a government or in the absence of government.
Yeah. By the way, Kenya is also affected, although it's not mentioned here, but there's a drought in part of Kenya.
Yes, especially the northern part of Kenya is affected. A lot of livestock died. And actually, there are even report of 62 people died in Mazrabet region. So that is Kenya also got affected by that.
Okay. Now, your RAHA existed for the last 16 years, and it proved beyond a doubt that you guys been helping communities in Somalia, Sudan, and elsewhere. So if people need to help out at this particular moment, because this one is extremely grave in terms of disaster. So if people wanted to help through RAHA, what do they do? Which route should they take?
Really, this is a good question because we are in the middle of a campaign to raise awareness and to raise funds for to be able to help the people there. One of the good things about RAHA that we are originally from the region. We speak the language, we understand the culture, and we have offices in the field. Right now, we have teams in the ground helping, and actually, we have been. In the field when we have been helping for the last few months on the drought aspect because our field offices, they were seeing this coming because when you are in ground, you could see better than the people far away. So they were raising this issue and we were able to help. But we cannot do anything without the support of the public. This is an organization that supported by public. So we need people to help us raise the funds necessary to save lives. Our mission is to save life. And there are many ways for people to help. They can donate, which is right now is crucial, to send food baskets and to send water to those people. You can help, you can donate through our website at www.araha.org. That is ARAHA.org. Once you open the page, you will see even the relief campaign in the main page. So that's one way to help. There's another way also to actually to help faster by using your phone, by texting. But if you text, for example, and I will give you this number to put it in the program for those who want to give, because really this is an emergency situation. If you text give and then put the amount that you want, and you text it to this number 763-515-9645, and then just follow the steps that the phone will ask you. I think that's also another way you can help. There are many ways you can help. You can share the information. A lot of people don't know about what is going on. So if you go to our Facebook page and just like our page, share the videos and the news that we are putting there. Ask people to contribute. I think that will be a lot of help, especially people who listen to this message. Please spread the word. People need to hear what is going on. There is a lot of people who have kind heart, a good heart, and they want to help, but they don't know the information. So that's another way. There are many other ways also. You can organize a fundraising event, and you can invite us, and we can explain for the people. That's another way also to help. We have a lifesaver campaign. You can take your own campaign and you can run it, and we can explain that. But we ask everybody to do your part, because this is a humanitarian situation, and this is a matter of life and death for those families in the Horn of Africa.
Thank you. Yeah, we will definitely display the numbers, and we'll have actually 7 minutes a video after we finished our
Yes,
interview.
that will be good clips, yeah, to show people about what is going on.
This
there.
way they'll have the clear picture. My next question is just to get the big picture. The severe droughts or famines are becoming familiar to this region every 10 years, every 20 years. What are the main causes, if you have to categorize them in 2 or 3 elements?
You know, that's a good question, and it's unfortunately to know that this region recently becoming the drought and the famine is unfortunately becoming a cycle that come every 2 to 3 years, and there are many causes, but I think if we want to know the underlying problems, one is the climate change. Climate change is really affecting the region. If you want to know the impact of climate change, you see it clearly in the Horn of Africa. Our relief programs in this region always between 2 extremes, between flood relief and drought relief. And that's one of the signs of the climate change. This region didn't have this climate change rapidly, like 50, 60 years ago. This region used to feed Saudi Arabia. And this is just back in the 1930 and in the 1940. And you can see now the situation. So this is one of the climate change is one of the causes, and unfortunately Africa is paying for something that it did not contribute to. The pollution that caused the climate change is, as according to the scientists, it is because of the industry countries, because of this release of CO2 in the air. And Africa is getting affected by this, although it is the least contributor to the cause of the problem. So big countries like United States and China and India and Brazil, they should really feel that there is a moral obligation on them to help, because they are the one who causes this problem. So this is one of the climate change is one of the main factor. Of course, another factor is the conflicts and the war that's going on in this area from time to time. And I think a good example is South Sudan. South Sudan right now, South Sudan is one of those countries is just beautiful. It's for 9 months it's rainy and it's green. But it's still the famine is happening, because the famine here is because of the war and the conflict and between the governing parties and with the other rebel and the group. So that is what is causing. And then there could be other, but those are
the two main.
Those are the main two causes.
In fact, that could also apply to Somalia and other regions, pretty much the whole Horn of Africa.
You're right.
And just like you said, South Sudan was one of the promised countries, given their climate and fertile lands and what have you.
You're right.
And what lessons have we learned from this famine, from the cycle that on every 10 years?
We learned many lessons, but always the problem is if we are really applying these lessons and learning from it and benefiting from it. One of the important lessons that we learned from previous famine is that early intervention is crucial and is critical. Early intervention saves lives. When full-scale famine come, children die even in the camps where there is aid available, because the severe malnutrition just took over their body, and even when they come to the help, they are not going to survive because it's too late. But it's not only save lives, it's cheaper. It costs 3 times to help people during famine than to helping them before they move from their homes, before displacement. This is one of the things that a lot of people do not realize, that early intervention actually, it's not only it's for the benefit of the people and saving life, but it's also as donors. When we help people while they are in their homeland, when they are in their villages, when they are in their farms, it's much cheaper for them there, because in that environment they have home, they have a place to maybe farm, maybe they have livestock they can take care of. It's just a matter of few months of the drought, and then if you help them at that, and then after that they can continue their life. They can be farming, they can be taking care of their cattle. So the cost is not a lot. But once they have been uprooted and they cross the border to another country, now the cost becomes too much, because now you have to shelter them, now you have to provide health, now you have to feed them in a regular basis. And most of the time, if they are in refugee camps, they are in an environment where they cannot produce anything. So they are going to be dependent on charities for as long as they stay there. And we can know from our experience how these refugee camps are there. The Dadaab refugee camp, for example, in Kenya, one of the most recent one actually, 25 years. Eritrean refugees in Sudan from 1967. If we talk about the Palestinian from the 1948. So as you could see, and now the Syrian also joined. So as you could see, helping the people while they are at their home is really even more also most effective and cheaper, and the consequences of going to refugee camps and changing the style, the lifestyle of those people can be prevented and can be avoided. So that is one thing that we learn, that early intervention is really important, and that's also what NGOs learn, and they produce reports after reports about this fact. But unfortunately, every time we are seeing the scenario repeating itself.
I agree. Unfortunately, some of the government do not help. It's good to help people while they're staying home, but at the same time, when you have an ethnic conflict, right there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But at least if we can help those in the severe drought, or, they are hit by the severe drought. So at least we can minimize the
damage.
The damage, yeah. But I agree with you. There are other causes of migration and displacement because of government policies and things like that.
Yeah. Speaking of government policy, yesterday Donald Trump met Deputy Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, and one of the things they were supposed to talk about is the Iran nuclear deal, and also the arms sales to Saudi Arabia. So, as you know, Saudi Arabia is playing a very active role in that region, Iran versus Saudi Arabia. So they have a base in Eritrea. Besides that, the contention between Saudi Arabia and the Iran, it may affect, I'm talking about Yemen. Like they launched their attack from Eritrean port of Asab and Yemen. That does not help to alleviate the problem of the Yemenis people. But on the other side, while the conflict is creating more famine, more drought, the United States is cutting their budget to a foreign aid by half. Given this and the ongoing conflict that is going on in that region, what does the future looks like, or what do you think that would the U.S. budget cut would harm your effort?
the U.S. is a large contributor and a large donor when we come to the international community. So when United States cut foreign aid, it really, a lot of people will get hurt. And it's not going also to help United States. United States engagement with the world is crucial, not only for the world, but even for the United States. See, we are not, we are an interconnected world, and no country is safe unless the other countries are safe. When Ebola happened in West Africa last time, U.S. citizen in Texas affected by it. It was just, the distance was one flight between United States and the disease. So, and you can see this example in other area when the international community did not help Syrian and did not resolve the Syrian conflicts. Syrians knocked the door on Europe and many countries around them and become a problem of these countries. So we are not anymore in a situation where I can say, you know, this is not my problem, this is other people's problem. No, other people's problem is our problem as well. Mm-hmm. So I hope that President Trump and the U.S. administration will look at this because this is really worrying us, and it's very concerning for us as a humanitarian organization for the U.S. to cut from the foreign aid that they provide. And by the way, it is the foreign aid that U.S. provide is about 1% of the U.S. budget. So it's not a big amount for the U.S., but the impact that it do, it's really crucial for United States. So it's really worrying us in the community, in the NGO community. This is one of the concern that right now we have, and people should let their senators, their congressmen about this, because this is going to affect a lot the life of a lot of people, and especially right now with the famine going on, for United States to stand and not doing anything. It's just un-American, and I hope the administration will revisit this.
Thank you. Yeah, you're right. Part of the aid that goes to some of the agencies within the United Nations as UNHCR, World Food Program, and UNICEF. This would be affected big time, I believe. And also they're entertaining the idea of the U.S.-based relief as well. They're planning to cut it.
Yes.
Hope they don't go through.
Yeah, and a lot of U.S. aid provide a lot of help to many organizations, and they have crucial really work and aid that they do. So to see that these programs cut back is just the impact will be devastating.
Okay. Well, if you have a last word to say to our audience.
I really thank you, Petros, always for having me here and for always touching important topics. Maybe if I have any words is that famine doesn't happen every single day. The last famine we have was in 2011, and we lost about 260,000 people. Half of them are children under the age of 5. I hope this does not happen again. And the way not to happen again is for us to engage as just individuals to help our brothers and sisters in this area by every one of us to do something. Otherwise, when you see the images in BBC and CNN with thousands of people dying, how your feeling is going to be. So that's a question I really want to raise it to everyone who's watching this program, that what you did to prevent this famine. this coming and this looming famine in part, and the famine that's happening right now or the famine that hit South Sudan and Yemen and other part of Africa and Asia.
Thank you, Mohammed Idris, the Executive Director of American Relief Agency for the Horn of Africa. And definitely we're going to have to see you again. Before we end the show, though, we have about a 7 minutes clip, a video clip, to show you, on some of your activities. And on that note, we end today's program. We'll see you with a different guest next week. Until then, have a nice one. Thank you.
Thank you, Boutros.
Thanks.
Severe drought in the Horn of Africa has reached famine conditions, and by any standards, the growing number of victims is truly staggering. The UN's Food Agency says that now 12 million people need emergency aid, with hundreds amongst that lot dying every single day. In the regions where famine has been declared, close to a third of the population is suffering from starvation and mass displacement.
Last year's famine nearly killed 100,000 people in the Horn of Africa, mostly children under the age of 7. What made this even more tragic is the fact that it was preventable. The American Relief Agency for the Horn of Africa, RAHA, we've been working in this region for over 11 years, helping alleviate poverty, disease, and illiteracy in the Horn of Africa. Fortunately, we also became one of the first organizations to help the famine victims in Mogadishu. I was also very fortunate to be part of a team that RAHA sent to the Horn of Africa, including the Executive Director, Mr. Mohammed Idris, as well as a young volunteer from San Diego's Somali Youth League, Mr. Abdimalik Bou. As a team, we went to Mogadishu, and we first went to a camp called the Tarabunka IDP camps, in the heart of Mogadishu. In this camp, we found nearly 30 to 40,000 people living literally on top of each other, in homes that were so fragile, made of sticks of wood and garbage. We found women, men, and children who you could see in their faces the journeys that they have made to come to these camps. Some 10 days, some 5, some 20 days to make it to these camps. We found children, because of the fact of they may have lost their parents, taking care of their own young siblings.
A 10-year-old child is taking care of her younger brother 1 year old because the mothers are tired, because the fathers are not here or they have died. And this is the situation in the refugee camps. We're not talking about those who are almost dying on the roads here. The ones in the refugee camps, you see the situation.
I came across a mother who was trying to make the best of the situation and was trying to cook a meal for her family. And when I went to see what she was cooking, she was only stirring some water.
It's water, it's water, it's water. It's not even food. What is in there? It's nothing but water.
I found the elderly couple who you can see in their face the hopelessness, but yet still hopeful that we would help them. Together, we were able to help some of those families and continuously helping many families in the famine who were affected by the famine in Mogadishu. RAHA's efforts to help the famine victims also included the border town between Ethiopia and Somalia, a place called Dolo Ado, where nearly 120,000 escaped the famine to these camps. In one of the camps called Hilawain Camp, with the partnership of Life, Relief and Development, we were able to distribute food to nearly 10,000 individuals. And in this camp I found the same images, the same faces that I saw in the Tarabunka camp, in the Rejo camp, and the other camps that we visited in Mogadishu. Women and children, mostly, who were tired from the journeys that they have made to escape the famine. And one story I will never forget is a story of an old grandmother who came to the line receiving food that day. And she came and she asked for me. She wanted to talk to me. And after I approached her, I listened to her, only for her to say simply, "Thank you." She was thanking me and thanking you all, the donors, who made it possible for food distributions and many projects to help the famine victims. I want to let you know that those famine victims who are now living in these camps do thank the help that you have made for them. But still they are looking for you to see what you can do to help them return home.
I'm really shocked, appalled at the number of people and the need. I cannot say anymore. We really need your support. Every dollar counts. Every rice kernel counts. And these people are asking for your help. They did not come here by choice. They came here because there was drought in their land, and they're really asking for your support. Please, look behind me. This is just few people who are asking, who I interviewed. There's thousands of people behind us. Thousands of people. And these are the people who are getting the food today. There's many others today who are not getting the food because it's not their food day, or they are coming just brand new. So please, we really need your support. Please donate generously.
In these camps, I also found some of the most vulnerable populations, the orphans, as well as visiting some other orphanage centers. And this is one of the most vulnerable populations, especially in this time. And we ask you to continue help, whether sponsor an orphan or help an orphan sponsorship project that we continuously work on. RAHA's efforts to help alleviate the famine victims also included non-food item distribution to many parts, including even the northern Somalia, as well as building water wells to help alleviate the shortage of water. Please, continue your generous support in helping the famine victims and the Horn of Africa, the families that are there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mama ku, mama sama, kumakusa, mama ku, mama sama, kumakusa, mama ku, mama sama, kumakusa, mama ku, mama sama, mamakusa. Sumanye. Mosoma, Mosoma. Kuma, 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 kuma. Tanga diwo, ombusa tanga, ne usama kosa. Alumuna, sisi au, ya sama kosa. Amuna yeye, koma, sama kosa.